So in the parts of the flower, we have studied the calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. So calyx is made up of sepals, corolla is made up of petals. Related to the calyx and corolla, we have studied about estivation, the arrangement of the sepals and petals is in the bud condition of the flower is called as estivation. So there are different types of estivation like volvate estivation, twisted estivation or contorted estivation, it is also called as, then imbricate estivation and vexillary estivation. So these are the four types of estivation in relation to the arrangement of sepals and petals in calyx and corolla. And in androecium we have studied about the stamens, the arrangement of the stamens. The stamens may be free or they may be fused. That means the stamens, when they are free, there is no any particular term for that, but when they are fused, it depends upon how many bundles are formed. That means the stamens, whatever may be the number, all together they may unite to form a single bundle called as monodelphous stamens, two bundles diadelphous, many bundles polydelphous and so on. Then when the stamens are born on the petals, epipetalous stamens, that is about the androecium. Now in the gynoecium is also called as pistil. The unit of gynoecium is the carpel. The number of carpels also vary from species to species. Suppose if there is only one carpel, monocarpellary, two carpels, bicarpellary, three tricarpellary, tetra, pentacarpellary, so on, polycarpellary. So when the carpels are free, it is apocarpus gynoecium, apocarpus pistil. When the carpels are fused, then it is called as syncarpus pistil. So apocarpus pistil, in case of Vinca rosea, in case of champaka flower, we find apocarpus pistil. So in most of the flowers, the pistil is syncarpus. But however, when there is a single carpel, monocarpellary, no question of fusion, it is always free. So only when there are 2, 3 and more than that, then the question arises whether the carpels are free or fused. That is about briefly about the gynoecium. So the gynoecium, each carpel is made up of ovary, style and stigma, and the number of carpels can be seen in the ovary as to how many chambers, or which are called as locules, are present in the ovary. So inside the ovary there are ovules, there are structures called as ovules, and these ovules are arranged in a different pattern, in a different manner. So this arrangement of the ovules in the ovary is called as placentation. So just to remember, so suppose this is the ovary and this is the style and this is the stigma. Now in this there are structures which are called as ovules and this is the ovary. So in this ovary the ovules are arranged and the number of the ovules also may vary. There may be a single ovule, there may be many ovules in the ovary. So like that, the arrangement of the ovules, how they are arranged in the ovary, so that arrangement is called as placentation. So this again there are different types of placentation. So the one type of placentation which is called as exile placentation. So when we take the section of the ovary, a part of the ovary, and observe the arrangement of the ovules, suppose this is the ovary, the section of the ovary, and this is the ovary wall, and inside there may be 3 chambers or 4 chambers or even 2 chambers. So the ovules are arranged in the center. So these are the ovules. So they are attached to the central axis. And actually this mass of tissue, or this tissue which is to which the ovules are attached, is called as placenta. So placenta is a mass of cells. It is a small group of tissue to which the ovules are attached in the ovary. That is called as a placenta. So this placenta is in the center, and the ovary is divided into 2 locules, 3 locules, 4 locules, 5 and many. Suppose in the case of tomato, brinjal, chili, there are 2 carpels or 2 locules. So the number of the locules indicate the number of the carpels. So this 2 locules are present in the brinjal, chili, and that means it is bicarpellary. In case of onion, coconut, there are 3 locules. So that means a tricarpellary, that is monocot. And sometimes there may be 4 and there may be 5. In case of hibiscus flower, so there are 5 locules, 5 carpels, but the carpels are united. They are syncarpous. So this is the locules in which the ovules are present, and each locule may contain 1 or 2 or 3 ovules in that. So that is about exile placentation. So exile it is so called because it is the ovules are attached to the axis of the ovary, the central axis of the ovary, and this is the ovary wall, and these are the locules. So such type of placentation, I said already, it is found in brinjal, tomato, onion, hibiscus, cotton, so on. Now this second one is free central placentation. So in free central placentation, so there is a slight difference between the exile and the free central. So here this is the placenta to which the ovules are attached, and these ovules are present in a unilocular ovary. They are freely present. So this is the locule. So there is a single locule. The ovary is not divided into 2 or 3 or many locules. The ovules are present attached to the central placenta, same like this, but there are no locules. So the wall between the locule is actually called as septum, septa. So that septa is absent in the free central. That's only the difference. So there is no septum here, but here you will find a septum dividing the ovary into 2 or 3 or many locules. But here there is only 1 locule. There is no septum. The ovules are freely present in the center. That is why free central. So they are free in the center, but here they are in the axis, in the central axis, which are having many locules. Then the third one is parietal placentation. In case of parietal placentation, the ovules, suppose this is the, so in the free central we come across in the evening primrose, primulus example. So in that you will come across free central placentation. But in the parietal placentation, what happens? The placenta is present actually in the ovary wall. So there are 1 or 2 or 3 placenta present in the ovary wall, and this placenta to which the ovules are attached like this. So there may be 2 or 3 groups of ovules. So the ovules are not in the center, but they are present attached to the wall of the ovary, because the placenta is not located. The placenta does not occur in the center. So hence in the center there is a single locule, and here also this is unilocular. So when there is 1 locule, unilocular ovary it is referred as, and bilocular, trilocular, tetralocular, pentalocular. So this is trilocular, this is unilocular, this is also unilocular, but here the ovules are freely in the center, and here the ovules are attached to the wall of the ovary because the placenta is present in that ovary wall. So this is the ovary wall to which the ovules are attached in 2 or 3 groups. So in 2 groups or 3 groups the ovules are present, and that is called as parietal placentation. So in cucumber we come across this kind of placentation in the cucumber flower. Then there is another type of placentation called as marginal placentation. Here usually in case of leguminous plants like pea and other pulses in the flower of those plants, we come across such kind of placentation. Here usually the ovary is somewhat elongated like this. So this is the ovary, this is the ovary wall, and along the ovary wall the placenta is present and the ovules are present in a row separately. So just like parietal, but in parietal what happens, the ovules are present in groups, but that means originating from a single point. That means the placenta is confined or constricted to a particular region in the ovary wall. But here in the case of marginal, the placenta is along the ovary wall, and hence the ovules are free but not irregularly distributed. But though they are free, they are arranged in a single row, or sometimes the 2 rows they may be. So there may be 1 or 2 rows of ovules along the ovary wall on which the placenta is present. So as the ovules are present towards one side, hence it is called as marginal. As we use the refer in the case of page, so we leave a certain space there towards one end of the paper when we write, so we call it as margin. Here also towards one end of the ovary, attached to the wall of the ovary, the ovules are present in a single or 2 rows called as marginal placentation. And lastly, there is one more type of placentation called as basal placentation. So I said these are present in pea plant and in other pulses, either it may be groundnut or it may be green gram, red gram, Bengal gram, black gram, etc. So in all these pulses, they are usually leguminous plants, we find marginal placentation. Now basal placentation means the ovary, suppose this is the ovary, here also there is a single ovule attached to the wall of the ovary where the placenta is present. So this is the ovule. Here also attached to the wall, here also attached to the wall. But here there is a single ovule. Here the ovules are found in groups. Here the ovules are in a single or 2 rows. So as it is referred as basal, because the single ovule, the large ovule, it is present in the basal part of the ovary of the single unilocular ovary. So here except exile, all the remaining types of placentation are unilocular. So this is also unilocular, freely present in the center. Here these are found in groups, 2 or 3 groups attached to the wall of the ovary, and here they are attached in a row or 2 rows to the wall of the ovary, and here also single large ovule present attached to the wall of the ovary. That is basal placentation. So in case of mango and berry, we find such kind of placentation. So these are the 5 types of placentation which we come across in the gynecium or in the ovary. So here this is how the placentation. Now after studying the parts of the flower, here actually the ovary develops into fruit, the ovule develops into seed. But however, we are not studying about the detailed aspects of fruit and seed. So just basically to know about that, So after the flower is completely formed, pollination takes place. That is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the flower. Then after fertilization, there is fertilization in the ovary. So this in the ovule, there is the egg or the female gamete where the fertilization takes place. So after fertilization, the ovary develops into the fruit and the ovules develop into the seeds. So actually after pollination and fertilization, the calyx, the corolla and stamens, that means the sepals, petals and the stamens, andrecium, they fall. Only the gynoecium is left in the flower. So after the gynoecium is left, the style and stigma also it separates off, and only the ovary will remain. So this ovary enlarges, so it will develop into the fruit, and the ovules which are present inside after fertilization, they develop into the seed. That is how the ovary develops into the fruit and the seed. Then the number of the seeds depends upon the number of the ovules, and this arrangement of the seeds can also be seen in the placentation. See here the marginal placentation in the pea plant, we can see the number of the these grains or the seeds which are arranged in a row. Like that, the number of the ovules will become the number of the seeds, and this ovary enlarges to become the fruit. That is about the placentation. Now related to the flower, we come across another aspect which is called as floral formula and floral diagram. So floral formula, already when we were studying about the calyx, corolla and andrecium, so I had mentioned that the parts of the flower, these whorls of the flower are indicated by certain symbols. So the representation of the parts of the flower by numbers or by symbols or by letters is called as floral formula. So for example, actinomorphic flower is written like this. This is actinomorphic flower. Zygomorphic flower is written like this, and a bisexual flower is written like this. So that means this is bisexual. So if this is called as a male flower, and if it is written like this, this is indicates the female flower. If we indicate the arrow mark on the above circle, it is the male. If a cross or plus symbol is represented or is shown just below the circle, it indicates the female. So when both are there, it denotes that it is the bisexual flower. So then that is about the sexual. If there is bracteate, it is written as BR. If it is E bracteate, it is written as EBR. Like that, then this calyx is indicated as K, showing the number of the sepals in the front of that. Suppose if the calyx is having 5 sepals, it is written as K5. So when the sepals are free, that is polysepalous, so just it is written as a simple digit. Suppose if the calyx is having fused sepals, that means when the sepals are fused, gamosepalous, which we call it as, so we indicate in the form of bracket. So this shows that the calyx is polysepalous with 5 sepals. This is calyx is gamosepalous with 5 sepals. That is about the calyx. Then corolla, similar. If there are 5 petals free like this, if the petals are fused, it is written in bracket. That is it indicates whether the sepals are fused or the sepals are free. So if the bracket is shown, it indicates that it is fused. If the brackets are not there, then it indicates that the sepals or petals are free. Then similarly, androecium, if there are 5 stamens, 5. So if they are free, no bracket. If all the stamens are fused to form one bundle, monodelphous, so it is written in bracket. Suppose if there are 10 stamens and there are 2 bundles, it is written as 5 plus 5. So this is one bundle and this is another bundle. So diadelphous. So like that the stamens are indicated. If bracket is not shown, it indicates that the stamens are free. And then gynoecium. If the stamens are born on the petals, that means if they are epipetalous, they are usually born on the inner surface of the petal, corolla, then the arrow mark is shown like this. So that means this androecium, the stamens are born on the petals. When we show an arrow mark like this, it indicates epipetalous. Stamens are born on the petals. Then gynoecium, number of the carpels. Suppose there is only one carpel, it is written as 1. If there are 2 carpels, it is written as 2. And again, if the carpels are free, no bracket, same. So in Calyx, Corolla, androecium, gynoecium, where if a bracket is shown, it is indicating the fusion of that parts. If there is no bracket, it indicates that they are free. Then gynoecium, when they are fused, so like this it is written. And there is one more terms related to this gynoecium, which we should have studied in the flower itself. So that is called as Hypogynus flower, Epigynus flower and Perignus flower. So these are the 3 terms related to the gynoecium. It indicates or it denotes the position of the ovary in the flower. So whenever we draw the flower like this, suppose this is the pedicel and this is the ovary, style stigma followed. And here we will find the ovules. Here we find the stamens, the calyx, corolla and all that. So when we observe such parts of the flower, if you see that the position of the ovary, so this ovary is in top position. The stamens, calyx and corolla are at the lowest position, means origin. But however, the stamens may be longer than the style and stigma. The petals and sepals may be, the petals may be very long, but usually the sepals are very small. So even though the petals are very large, the stamens are very long than the gynoecium or the pistil, but they are being originated below the gynoecium, below the ovary. In other words, the ovary is top in position, occupies higher position on the thalamus. So that is why the ovary is said to be top in position, or in other words, it is called as superior ovary, ovary superior. So if ovary is superior, that means if ovary occupies the top position on the thalamus, then the other parts like stamens, petals and sepals, then it is called as hypogonous flower. So hypogonous flower means a flower which is having superior ovary. So if you take the other form, if ovary is low, now ovary is the top, ovary is low position than the other 3 parts. In such case, what happens? The thalamus is somewhat cup shaped like this. We come across cup shaped thalamus. So in this cavity of the thalamus, the ovary is present like this. So this is the ovary, and from this you will find the stamens, corolla and calyx like this. So ovary is at low position, the stamens, calyx, corolla are on the top position. That means ovary is at the low position. So ovary is called as inferior ovary. Inferior means low. So that is called as Epigynus flower. So the Epigynus flower means where the ovary is inferior. Hypogynus means ovary is superior. Now Perignus means equal. All are equal. So the ovary is neither inferior nor superior. So when the ovary is equal in position, so then we call it as, so suppose this is the ovary. So by the side of the ovary, the other parts will arise. So you can see that the ovary is equal in position along with the other parts like stamens, calyx and corolla. That is called as Perignus flower. So this Epigynus, Hypogynus, Perignus, these are three types of flowers. So sometimes for 1 mark, what is Hypogynus flower? A flower which is having a superior ovary is called as Hypogynus flower. Epigynus, a flower which is having inferior ovary. Perignus, a flower which is having semi-inferior. Semi means half, not completely. So this is Perignus flower. Now here in the chemical, floral formula, how this inferior and superior is to be indicated. So here if the gynoecium is superior, that means the ovary is superior, so it is indicated like this. So if this is the gynoecium and a line is written below the gynoecium symbol, that means gynoecium is on the top. So if this is shown, the line is indicated like this. So when you write a G and draw a line on the upper part, it indicates that the ovary is inferior. And similarly in case of Perignus, so here in the front of this the line is indicated, show that the gynoecium is equal to the other parts of the flower like stamens, calyx and corolla. So that is about the floral formula, which is denoted by these letters and the numbers and also these symbols. That is what is Hypogynous flower and all that. Then the floral diagram showing the floral diagram. So floral formula, it indicates the parts of the flower representing the parts by the help of symbols and letters. But floral diagram, it is representing the parts of the flower showing their arrangement and pattern, how they are arranged. So we can also see the number and we can see actually the arrangement of the flower. Now suppose if you take a calyx, so this calyx consists of sepals. Now how these sepals are arranged? Suppose this is in case of estivation we have seen. So they may be arranged in a different pattern. Suppose this is the calyx which shows valvate estivation, where the edges of the petals and sepals are just in touch with each other. They do not overlap. The edge of the sepal, so this is the calyx what I am showing here. So these edges of the sepal, they are just in contact with each other, they are not overlapping. That is the calyx which shows valvate estivation. Inside to this there is a corolla. Now this corolla is, suppose this is the arrangement of the petals in the flower. So we can see here the petals show twisted type of estivation. This is how the estivation is indicated. So this is the calyx and this is the corolla. So here we can see the arrangement of the petals here. So and also the number of the petals can be seen here, followed. And suppose if the sepals or petals are free, so you should the edges should not be in contact. If the sepals are fused, so they are to be joined like this. So if you join the edges of the two sepals in this way, it indicates that they are gamosepalous. Suppose if you don't indicate like this, the edges are not touching with each other, it shows that, or it indicates they are free, polysepalous. When you join the ends of these two by just a short arc, it indicates that they are fused. And similarly in the petals, suppose these are the petals. Here also when they are fused, the edges should be attached like this. So they should be joined. This is how the edges are to be joined. This is. So when we join the two edges, it indicates they are fused. Petals are fused. If you don't join this, it indicates they are free. That is about the petals. Then if you come to the stamens, suppose if there are 5 stamens, they should be indicated like this. So this is stamen. This is another stamen. So like this 5 stamens are there. So stamens are represented like this. So if there are many stamens, we should show here as many as stamens there. Suppose if the stamens are epipetalous, they are borne on the petals, so we should join the stamens with the petals like this. This is epipetalous. This indicates epipetalous. If you don't join, it means that the stamens are free. And again, if you show the union of the stamens and the filaments, if all the stamens are fused, whatever may be the number, there may be 10 stamens or there may be one more number of stamens, so like that. So these stamens, when they are joined like this, so that means it indicates that all the stamens are forming a single bundle. So the stamens are forming a single bundle. That is how the stamens are shown. Suppose if there are 2 bundles, if you take 5 stamens, 3 are united to form one bundle, 2 are united to form one bundle, like this. So these 3 one bundle, these 2 one bundle. And if you take 10 stamens, so again, if they are free, we should indicate the stamens free. They should not be attached to one another. And if the stamens are united to form single bundle, all the stamens, all the 10 stamens should be joined. And again, if you want to show diadelphous among the 10 stamens, 5 plus 5, take for example, we have to show the joining of the 5 stamens one and the other 5 stamens together. So these 5 stamens should be in one arrangement or joining. The other 5 stamens should be joined separately. So like that we can indicate diadelphous, monodelphous, like that. And that is about andrecium. Then to show the gynoecium, the placentation is shown actually in the center. Already we have studied the placentation. Actually, what type of placentation is there? It may be exile placentation, it may be free central placentation, it may be marginal placentation, or it may be basal placentation, parietal placentation, so on. So if it is having exile placentation, it is indicated like this. And again in the placentation, we have to indicate the locules. So in exile only we find 2 or more locules, but in free central, marginal, parietal, we don't come across locules. So here we should indicate the number of the locules and the placenta is shown. That is how the calyx, corolla, andrecium, gynecium is represented in the form of diagram. And again here after that the actinomorphic symbol is shown here. Suppose if it is actinomorphic, that means radially symmetrical as we refer in the animals, and zygomorphic, bilateral symmetrical in the case of animals we refer. So that is to be shown here. This is indicates the whether it is the regular that is whether it is bilaterally symmetrical or radially symmetrical. And as per the bisexual, unisexual, like that we can indicate in the this diagram itself. Suppose if this is a male flower, this gynecium is not shown. Suppose if you represent the floral diagram of a male flower, so you show that you show only the calyx, corolla and andrecium. So when you are not showing the gynecium, means it indicates that it is male flower. And in the other case, when you represent in the female flower, we do not represent the stamens, only the gynecium, that is the placentation is represented. So when you are not showing the stamens, it means that it is a female flower. That means there are no stamens, only the gynecium is present, only the pistil is present, and hence it is the female flower. So like that in the floral diagram we can come to know whether it is a male flower or female flower or a bisexual flower. And even in floral formula also we can come to know. But the difference between floral formula and diagram is, in floral formula we come to know the number of the units of the calyx, corolla and andrecium, but we do not come to know the arrangement of the calyx and corolla. That means the estivation. So in the estivation, suppose here K5 when we write, there are the calyx is having 5 sepals, correct, of course, but in what pattern they are arranged, that we don't come to know. So whether they are valvate or imbricate or twisted. So that is why in floral diagram we come to know the parts of the calyx and corolla and also their arrangement, in what pattern they are arranged. And similarly andrecium, of course there is no difference. We come to know the number of the stamens and how they are arranged, whether single bundle or whether they are free or whether there are 2 bundles diadelphous and so on. But in gynecium again there is a difference. So here when we see in the floral formula, when we write here it is superior ovary, but here we don't come across whether it is superior or inferior. By seeing this diagram we do not come to know whether the flower is hypogonus or epigynous, whether the ovary is superior or inferior. That is here. And again we don't come to know. And again in the floral formula we cannot know what type of placentation it is. In case of floral diagram we actually see the arrangement of the ovules. So when we are indicating this exile placentation, so there we cannot come to know whether it is exile placentation. So like that the floral diagram and floral formula is represented. In case of diagram, the actually arrangement of the parts is indicated, whereas in the formula only the numbers, the letters and symbols are shown. That is what is floral formula and floral diagram. Then about angiosperms, in the next aspect what we study is in the classification already we have seen about the Whittaker's 5 kingdom classification, that the living organisms are divided into Monera, Protista, Mycota or fungi, Plantae and Animalia. Now in Plantae we have studied about different divisions. Plant kingdom is divided into algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms. So in this morphology chapter, we are studying about only angiosperms. So all these are concerned only with the flowering plants. So angiosperms are the flowering plants. But bryophytes, pteridophytes and gymnosperms, they are non-flowering plants. So angiosperms, they are further divided into dicots and monocots. Now for example, angiosperm is the division, means plant kingdom. So in a taxonomic hierarchy, we have already seen there are different rank which we assign. So this kingdom, next division or phylum, then class, order, family, genus and species. So this is taxonomic hierarchy, and we have studied the taxonomic hierarchy of man and also taxonomic hierarchy of plant like wheat or onion. So this kingdom plant which contains this division angiosperms. So this division angiosperm is divided into two classes, dicot and monocot. So dicotyledon and monocotyledon, in other words. So this class dicotyledoni and class monocotyledoni. Now this class dicotyledoni, it is again further divided into orders. So there are many orders in each class. Now for example, in case of dicot, there are about 33 orders, and in case of monocot, there are about 11 orders approximate, because according to different systems of classification, the number of the orders, they change. So according to one classification, when we observe that class dicotyledon is divided into 33 orders and class monocotyledon is divided into 11 orders. Again, each order is divided into families. So again, each order may contain any number of families. There may be only 4 or 5 families, or there may be 8 or 10 or even more, 15, 16 like that. So family means it is a group under order. So when we are studying about kingdom plantae, we divide 2 groups of plants. Dicotyledon is one group, monocotyledon is another group. Now dicot is again divided into 33 groups and monocot is divided into 11 groups. Now each group is called as order. Again that order group is further divided into families. It is again smaller groups. Now each family contains genus and species, that means examples. So there may be hundreds or even thousands of examples. There are different families which contain number of genera, number of species. So total number of genera and species may differ from family to family. So a family is just like a phylum, what we have studied in the animal kingdom already. So in animal kingdom, what we have studied, there are different phylum, that is phylum Porifera, phylum Coelenterata, plus Platyhelminthes, phylum Ctenophora, then phylum Annelida, Ascalmenthes, phylum Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinodermata, Chordata. So each group we studied. Now here this is divided into orders, and also this is divided into orders. So there are about 33 orders. Each order is again divided into family. So this is the taxonomical hierarchy which we have already studied. So kingdom, division or phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. So each family contains examples, genus and species. Now in this order there is each order contains many families, and again here also 11 orders are there. Each order contains many number of families. There may be few like 5 or 6, there may be 8, 10, 15, 16 or even up to 20, 25 like that. So different orders are having different families. Now in the dicot we are studying one family, and in the monocot we are studying one family. So in each family we have to study the characters of that family. So just mentioning the characters of that family. Now for example here, just to recall in this, the dicotyledone has different orders. So there is one order which is called as Rosales or Fabulous, it is also called as. Now this order, this is the name of one order. We are not supposed to study the remaining ones. We are not concerned with the names of the orders. And take for example, this is one order. In this Rosales order, there are different families. So in that Rosales order, there is one family which is called as Fabaceae. So this Fabaceae is one family. Always the name of the family ends with C. And this is one example of a family in dicot. Now if you take in monocot, in monocotyledone class, again there are orders. There is one order which is called as Liliflorae. So in that Liliflorae, there is one family which is called as Liliaceae. This is the name of a family. So this Liliaceae and Fabaceae, there are two families what we have to study. So totally when we study the total families, now just take for example, there are 33 orders in dicot. If average, if you consider, there are about nearly 5 or 6 families in each order. So 5 or 6, so like that. And in this there are 11 orders. Again each order contains some families. There may be 2 or 3 families also in certain orders. When there is a small order, it is having only 2 or 3 families. And there are also orders which are having many families up to 8, 10 like that. So this total families when we take, they are about more than 200. So there are about 250 or 260 families totally in this Angiosperms. Now in each family we have to study the characters, just like the phylum. So in the phylum what we studied with relation to animals, the nature of the animal, means whether it is the triploblastic, diploblastic, radially symmetrical, bilaterally symmetrical, then digestive system, body cavity, respiratory system, the respiratory organs, and then the circulatory system, the nervous system, then the reproductive system, and all that we studied in the phylum. Similarly in the family Fabaceae, we have to study the characters of this each family, like habit, the type of leaves present in the family, and the type of inflorescence present in the family, then the flower character in that family, then the calyx, the corolla, the androecium and gynoecium, and at last certain examples of this family. What examples we come across? So each family contains several genera, but all the genera are not present in a single country. Suppose if you take about Fabaceae, all pulses, they are included under this family. So groundnut, pea, all the pulses which are there, they are included under this family, dicot. In family Liliaceae, there is common plants like onion, garlic, and these lily plants, that means the flowering plants. So like that, the family, these two families which we have to study, Fabaceae and this one. So this Fabaceae and Liliaceae, and of course there is one more family under this. Other than Fabaceae, there is one more family called as Solanaceae. So this Solanaceae belongs to the order in a dicot. So this family contains plants, common plants like tomato, brinjal, chili, potato, then tobacco and all this. So those examples are included under this family. So just keeping in mind about these plants. So just we know about the tomato plant, the chili plant, and even the brinjal plant, and sometimes if might have seen the potato plant. So the characters of that plant. So this family Solanaceae, it includes mostly herbs, and there are certain shrubs, and rarely trees are present in this. So habit means what type of plants are present in this family. Suppose if there are about 2000 genus or 2000 species in this family, most of them are herbs. Only few, some plants are shrubs, and very few plants are trees. That is in case of habit. Now leaves means we have to study about the nature of the leaves, whether they are simple leaves or compound leaves, and how they are arranged, whether alternately arranged or opposite or whorled type of arrangement, or if even if there are any stipules present in the leaves, and all that we have to study. And in case of Solanaceae, one important character to mention here, the leaves are having unequal leaf base. Suppose if you see this leaf of a tomato or chili plant, when we observe that, you can see the leaf is like this. So that means the leaf base, the lamina is unequal. So actually the lamina should have been originated like this. So if you take other leaves, the lamina will be equal like this, we draw. So the lamina will be equal on the petiole. But here in the case of Solanaceae, the unequal leaf base or lamina, so that is the lamina base, not the leaf base, but leaf base is actually here. So the lamina base will be unequal. That is the main character of this family Solanaceae. Then inflorescence, if you take here, it is a cymose inflorescence, and that means the inflorescence, the flowers are having a definite growth of the floral axis. Then the flowers are bisexual, and they are actinomorphic in nature. That is, they are pentamerous and hypogonus. So hypogonus already we have mentioned. So the flowers are having superior ovary, and they are pentamerous. Pentamerous means the number of the sepals, petals and stamens are in the 5 or multiples of 5. That is the flower. And usually the thalamus is very flat. So when we see the thalamus which is in the flower, it is somewhat flattened. On that flattened thalamus, the whorls are arranged. And again, if you come to the calyx, there are 5. So 5 calyx is normally the average number in any plant. So 5 sepals, and they are gamosepalous and valvate arrangement like this. So this when we indicate the estivation, so the estivation is also imbricate sometimes. So the calyx shows 5 sepals, but either it is valvate or sometimes it is imbricate. Then another important structure is persistent calyx. So this is to distinguishing characters of this family. So persistent calyx means the calyx which will never fall even after the formation of the fruit. So just when we studied about the gynoecium at the end, I had mentioned that after pollination, fertilization, the sepals, petals and stamens, they fall. The style separates. Only the ovary will remain, so that ovary will enlarge to form the fruit. But in Solanaceae, the calyx will never fall. So this calyx remains, the sepals remain even if the fruit is formed. Such type of calyx is called as persistent calyx. So persistent calyx we see in tomato, brinjal and even in case of chili. Suppose if you see in this brinjal plant like this, so this is the fruit, actually this is the ovary, so these are the sepals. So that means these sepals, they remain even in the fruit, and even in a tomato also we see sometimes, and even in chili also we see there is a cup like structure like this, and actually the chili is like this. So this cup like structure, it is fused there, and this is the ovary followed, and that is persistent calyx. So unequal lamina base persistent calyx is the characteristic feature of the family Solanaceae. Then if you come to the other characters, for example the petals, there is no any distinguishing characters. There are 5 petals and the petals are again fused there, and gamopetalous. And these petals which are fused, they are just like wheel like. That is why it is called as rotate corolla, or sometimes this corolla is campanulate, somewhat bell shaped in some flowers. Then androecium, again there are 5 stamens normal, and these are epipetalous, borne on the petals, and they are alternating with the petals. So alternating with the petals means suppose this is petal, this is petal, the stamens are present in between here. So here I have shown the stamens opposite to the petal, but in case of Solanaceae, the stamens are just alternating with the petals, and the anthers sometimes they together form a cone like structure in the center of the gynoecium. Then gynoecium is bicarpellary. Already I mentioned in case of brinjal, tomato, there is bicarpellary, that is bilocular this gynoecium, and the carpels are fused, syncarpus, and ovary is superior, because in the flower when you are mentioning hypogonus, here we have to mention superior ovary. So that is related. Then there is exile placentation here, and the placenta is oblique. Now oblique placenta means suppose this is the bicarpellary, so the placenta is like this, arranged. To this the locules are arranged like this. So this is called as oblique placenta. The placenta is arranged in oblique manner, not either perpendicular to the axis of the flower or like that. So in this we come across the examples of tomato, potato, brinjal, chili, and certain medicinal plants like ashwagandha. Then also there is tobacco plant coming under this, and there is another medicinal plant called as belladonna, and so on. Those are the some examples. And if you take in the Liliaceae, monocot family, Liliaceae is also having herbs only. There are no trees in this family. So we come across onion, garlic, and aloe vera. That is also another example under this Liliaceae. So here the herbs are common in this family, and leaves are alternately arranged. They are somewhat linear. Linear means long. So in the onion plant you might have seen the leaves are very long. They are not broad. They are not spread. And even in aloe vera plant also the leaves are linear, and that is another character. Inflorescence is same in both cymose and cymose, are both type of, and flowers are bisexual and actinomorphic. There is no any change. But here there are trimerous flower, here pentamerous, here trimerous. The parts of the flower are 3 or multiples of 3. Then here we come across perianth. This calyx and corolla is not there. Instead of that, there is perianth. That means in the perianth there are tepals. So there are 6 tepals arranged in 3 plus 3. Means all the 6 are not in the same whorl. So 3 are in one whorl and the other 3 are in another whorl. So that is why 3 plus 3, and they are fused, gamophilous they are called as, and they are in volvate arrangement. Then if you come to the andrecium, 6 stamens are there. Again they are not arranged in a same circle. So 3 are in one whorl, 3 are in another whorl. So that is andrecium. Then gynoecium, 3 carpels, tricarpellary. Here this is bicarpellary, tricarpellary fused, syncarpus. And oris superior, trilocular. So when there are 3 carpels means locules also there will be 3, and it is exile placentation. So already mentioned onion, garlic, aloe vera, and another medicinal plant which is called as asparagus racemosus. It comes under this family, which is called as a shatavari plant in Kannada. Then colchicine is another plant which is commonly used in the genetic studies, and that is an important chemical which is extracted from this plant. So colchicine is extracted, which is used especially in the cell studies, cytological studies. So to study the number of the chromosomes, so there we come across in the family. So these are the 2 families what we have to study, family Solanaceae and family Liliaceae, which indicates represents one dicot family and one monocot family. So that is about the morphology of angiosperms.